It's time to talk about your money here on Good Morning Quad Cities. First, let's all take a deep breath as we show you what happened on Friday. Just in case you need a reminder, the S&P 500 fell 155 points. The NASDAQ lost 536 points, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell, another deep breath, 939 points. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ closed on Friday at their lowest price so far in 2022. So joining us live is our financial expert, Mark Revicheski from the Quad Cities Investment Group. Thank goodness you're here.
That's a lot of deep breaths our viewers
I know.
take this morning.
So far this year, the stock market has not been good to investors, especially in the month of April.
Well, you're right. April was a very difficult and challenging month for investors. The NASDAQ's April decline of 13.3% was its worst performing April going back to 2008. Nice. For the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average, their worst performing April, you got to go all the way back to 1970.
Really?
Look, a lot, more and more companies are starting to raise some cautionary flags about their ability to drive revenues and earnings, 6, 9, even, 12 months down the road. And we're talking some big name companies here like, Amazon, Bristol Myers, Intel, Verizon, PayPal, just to name a few. And it's all of this concern over high inflation, rising interest rates. What's the health of the economy? Do we kind of dip back into another recession? And it's all this apprehension that's being reflected in this market decline.
Yeah, well, speaking of the economy, we have another kind of concerning graph to show you. Last week, the Department of Commerce reported that the U.S. economy shrank an annualized rate at 1.4% in this quarter. So what are your thoughts on this latest report, especially looking back at what we've seen during the pandemic?
Well, soon after the initial impact of the pandemic, back in the first and second quarter of 2020, we see this economic surge, literally for a year and a half, as the economy reopens, as millions and millions of Americans go back to work. But as we get into 2022, Angie, a lot of these economic recovery tailwinds we once had start to disappear, and any economic growth going forward just simply becomes a lot more tougher to come by. Now, on the positive side, we still have strong consumer spending, strong business spending, but in this environment of high inflation, rising interest rates, how much longer can that last?
You mentioned the R word earlier, recession. What are your...
I try not to.
I know, because I get really scared. But what are your thoughts on concerns that we might be heading in that direction?
Well, a recession is officially defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. Okay, we just got it. We just got one here. And if we do post a negative growth rate in the second quarter, technically we are in a recession. Now, we are expected to see a return of some type of positive growth rate in the second quarter. For me, I think the main concern over recession is later this year, most certainly into 2023. To help combat this extremely high level of inflation we're seeing, the Federal Reserve is projecting we're going to get 7 quarter-point interest rate hikes this year.
Wow.
Plus an additional 3 more next year. And the risk of having all of those interest rate hikes in such a compressed window of time is that it does place a tremendous amount of strain on consumers, on businesses, and ultimately, Angie, the U.S. economy.
Yeah, we're going to see how this plays out in the coming months. Mark, thank you so much for coming in and for your time and expertise. We need it, right?
Good to see you again.